book is about sex and the energetic nature of human sexuality. What most people are aware of is that sex is an energetic function. When they're attracted to another person, they can feel the magnetism. They feel that it's energetic. It's not a biological function, as we're led to believe. In fact, the biological aspect of sex, the actual part that actually leads to our ability to fertilize the human egg, is actually a secondary aspect of the energetic function. And the biological aspect actually hitches a ride on the potency of the energy that two people feel with each other. So, with our work, being able to identify sex as an energetic function, we can apply the laws of physics, which paints a completely different story about the nature of human sexuality than looking at it through the filter of biology. And in that, we begin to see that heterosexuals and homosexuals have two different energetic functions that together they're able to create a more cohesive, healthier, more sustainable lifestyle for humans, in which procreation can happen, in which we can rear and raise our children in a healthier environment. And all of these things play into the energetic function of what sex is about.
How does this relate to homosexuality?
When we observe how energy circulates, whether it's through a house, through a car, through an individual, or through society, we notice that the same principles apply. You have basically positively charged energy. And again, this is not, positive isn't to indicate an attitude. It's not a positive attitude. In energy, positive is referred to as a particular charge. And positively charged energy basically draws energy in. It pulls energy forth. Then there is negatively charged energy, or the negative charge. And it's not to say that it's negative in terms of a bad attitude. Negatively charged energy is just the capacity that energy has to move energy out. So while the feminine or the positively charged energy brings in, it receives it, the masculine energy or the negatively charged energy actually puts it out. So within any kind of situation where you're moving energy through, you need to have an in point and an out point. One's feminine, one's masculine. Positively charged energy, negatively charged energy. However, in physics, there are three genders of energy that have to be in place in order for anything to exist. The third energy, so there's positive, negative, the third energy is neutrally charged energy. Neutrally charged energy is the grounding energy. It's the energy that brings balance to the masculine and feminine. And what we've discovered in the work with the retreats and courses that I do is that homosexuals actually hold that for heterosexuals. Heterosexuals hold the positive and the negative charge. That's their fundamental charge, not only in sex, but also in society. Homosexuals, even though they have a positive and negative charge as well, their primary charge is the neutral charge. And so in the context of society, one of the things that they do is they hold a bridge for heterosexuals by balancing the sexual energy and the social energy between them.
It sounds like what you're saying is that sexual orientation is more than just sexual preference.
Absolutely. Up until now, our society has viewed homosexuality and heterosexuality as specifically a sexual preference. However, what's really going on is that it's an orientation between two energetic points, mind and body. The body receives energy. We receive energy through our senses. The mind then takes that energy, turns it into thought and action. So energy comes in through the body, the sensing body, and goes out through thought and action. What that basically does is that it shows that as humans, we actually generate a magnetic field. We bring the energy in through our feeling body and out through our thinking mind. So let's say, for example, I grab an apple and I take a bite of the apple. from what I see, what I feel, what I smell, what I taste. The receptor cells that are receiving that information turns that information into a code that my brain can understand. And if the apple's good, then the thought that will get generated from the information will be, this is a good apple. And the action that I'll take from that is, take another bite. It's good. Enjoy it. However, if the apple is a bad apple, then the information will be different. My brain will produce a thought that says, this is not a good apple, and the action that I'll take is discard this. However, when it comes to sexual orientation, there are filters placed on the feeling body and the thinking mind in terms of our gender, which defines how we receive energy in, and how we think about sexuality, which is the way our brain responds. And that's different for different people. And it's according to the three charges. So when we think of the individual as being a conduit for circulating energy and generating a magnetic field, imagine the collective of humans, the whole collective, the whole population, that as we become a more populous species, we are actually generating a stronger and stronger magnetic field, meaning that people are going to have to start lining up according to these three charges, and to be able to live in society and be able to express themselves and live openly based on the energetic charge that they hold.
Then what is sex exactly?
Well, sex is an energetic phenomena. When two people come together to have sex, the attraction is such that their desire is to create friction. Now, just the attraction alone already is an indication that sexual energy is circulating between them. And when energy begins to circulate, it naturally starts to create friction. When you add the sexual act to that friction, it intensifies the friction. And it doesn't matter who you're having sex with, whether it's two men, two women, a woman and man. The idea is that if you have the attraction, if the connection is there, the energy is going to move you toward creating friction. What happens when we generate friction within the body is we produce an electrical charge. Now, the way most people relate to that electrical charge is as a sexual charge. As that sexual charge builds inside the body, it changes our physiological state. Our heart rate increases, our breath rate increases, our metabolic rate increases. It literally changes. All that information that's coming in through the sensing body and going up to the brain and being converted into thought and action is becoming a continuous cycle. It strengthens our magnetic field. Once this reaches a critical point, the magnetic field takes over, and the energy just starts moving through the body, and the sexual act becomes effortless. And that's absolutely essential, because once it becomes effortless, it means the energy has taken over, which is what we want. When that happens, that's when we reach the ecstatic state. Now, what happens at the point of the ecstatic state is that the energy will build up at such an intensity that we'll feel a moment of release, the orgasm. Once that orgasm happens, that means that the mind and body have come into complete alignment. The orientation is absolutely perfectly aligned. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. Because once the energy is released, we then return back to a normal state, but it's a normal state in which we feel balanced and calm and centered.
When you talk about this inclusion of the neutral force with the positive and negative being good for society, what do you mean?
When matter becomes dense, what happens is that the neutron, or the neutral force, shows up within the matter to balance the energy between opposites. So now that society has gotten to a place where we have crossed over the 7 billion mark, meaning 7 billion people now on the planet, the energetic nature of our species has changed. We've evolved. And as a result of it, suddenly now we're going to see an abundance of neutral energy, meaning people that hold the gatekeeper energy, specifically homosexuals, showing up to help balance the energy between the male and female principle of society. And that's exactly what's happening now. And what's beautiful about it is that it is a part of a conversation on every single level, which is more of an indication that homosexuality is not just a sexual preference. Sexual orientation is not just about sexual preference. It's about how a person's sexual nature contributes to their overall state or identity within society. We know that in some of the environments, such as on Wall Street, and where there's a real strong masculine energy, that if there was more of the neutral force or even the feminine force, a part of that energy, a lot of that aggressive nature that we end up with, the sort of alpha male energy, can be neutralized and better balanced. It reconnects the thinking and the doing more with the feeling body. It brings mankind in alignment with itself, the whole. So it's important now that humanity begin to embrace and see that the homosexual energy, the gatekeeper energy, is an essential part of balancing all aspects of society.
Perhaps you could illustrate the inclusion and acceptance of homosexuals as the neutral force by talking a little bit about what happens when it's suppressed.
Well, we already know the impact of repressing one's own sexual energy. In fact, I believe that there was a period in time within the last 20, 30 years in which the suicide rate among LGBT teenagers was around 42%. That's a real strong indication of how repressed sexual energy, how damaging repressing sexual energy can be to an individual. Essentially what's happening is that the mind goes against the feeling body. The information that's coming in is unacceptable to the mind, and the mind begins to attack the body and its feelings. And as a result of it, we cut off our life force. If we can't generate a magnetic field that gives us our life, that gives us our sense of being present and healthy, there's no reason to live. We have no inspiration, no desire. So imagine if we look at the collective, if we look at society, if we were to repress a certain element of sexual energy, specifically the neutral charge, how that would affect society in general. So if we consider some of the nations in Africa in which they criminalize or even demonize homosexuality, we see there an incredible increase in rape. I think in one of the countries, there's as many as 48 women being raped every hour. What's happening is that the neutral force is being eliminated from society by the simple fact that the government holds a stand that it should be criminalized, or religion is stating that it's the work of the devil. They're demonizing it. And so as a result of it, the actual homosexuals that live there are not able to live and participate in society in the way they were meant to participate in society. And therefore, that link between the masculine and feminine is removed. And in this day and age, that's suicide for the society. And we can see it because men and women are not able to stabilize their relationships, and therefore there's a lot of abuse that happens. Now, if we take in consideration, or just in comparison, some of the countries in Europe, let's say, or even some of the cities in the United States where homosexuality is more well integrated to the point where it's beyond tolerance, it's actually at a place of acceptance, homosexuals are actually able to live healthier lives, and by doing that, they provide that balancing energy for heterosexuals, and therefore we see a direct correlation of how the divorce rate and even the spouse abuse rate and even rape is much lower. Now, I really request anybody out there, I really challenge anybody out there to go out and actually compare these statistics to see what happens. I touch on it in the book for a little bit, but this is an area of the conversation that needs to be developed more fully.